The gentleman in the blue suit was crying about being interrupted while simultaneously interrupting people. He also wanted to go after Kamala Harris for being a flip-flopper. Donald Trump, oh, look, he's doing it again. He's doing it again right now. So, starting in 25, not doing anything. I'm sorry. Are all of these things that help people not doing anything? Now, here's the question. Now, look at these. Look at these triggered guys over here. They're the real Piers. We're looking at the real snowflakes over here.
Trump-sympathizing political commentator Piers Morgan hosted his second U.S. politics panel since Donald Trump's disastrous defeat at the hands of Vice President Kamala Harris. And this particular panel exploded into pure chaos and heckling and interruptions after the two MAGA Republicans on the panel got particularly triggered. And it's hilarious, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. As you know, we cover Piers Morgan quite a bit here because it's an election year, and Piers Morgan, whether we like it or not, puts out good, entertaining content, even if we wish he would be fairer and live up to his nonpartisan journalist self-profession, right? He claims that he is not biased towards Donald Trump, even though 9 times out of 10 he grades him on an egregious curve. But it says something about Kamala Harris's performance against Donald Trump that even Piers Morgan really couldn't spin it. He admitted publicly that Trump got his ass kicked. And so this is the second, I don't want to say anti-Trump, but pro-Kamala, pro-Democrat panel that Piers Morgan has hosted. I'm stunned. I'd like to see more of this, where it's a 50-50 fight, where the panel topics are not overwhelmingly pro-Trump. Sometimes if they have the Republicans on the back foot. More of this, Piers, if you're watching, and please be sure to like and subscribe. So the panelists in question have Harry Sisson, a Gen Z TikToker aligned with the Democratic Party. He's very good at what he does. Francesca Forientini of the Bituation Room podcast. Very funny, very incisive. And then these two schmucks, one of them is Ted Cruz's sidekick, the guy in the blue suit. And then the other one, I think, is an ex-cop Trump supporter who has been on Piers Morgan before. They get triggered very quickly, I should say. And so we're going to play some of these clips because, again, they're wildly entertaining. We'll start with this one here.
Harry, on the bigger picture, there's no doubt to me it was a very good night for Kamala Harris. No doubt to me that the endorsement for Taylor Swift was also a very big tick in the box for her, given just how many millions of young women love Taylor Swift. But if there's another debate, are you concerned that you'll see a very different Trump and that Kamala Harris will have to be adaptable to that if it comes?
Piers, we've seen the same Donald Trump for 8 years now. There's not been a single debate of which he's composed and focused. He took the bait every single time last night.
Well, the last debate, he ended Joe Biden. Well, hang on. Don't observe each other.
Wait, hold on.
Harry, the last debate, to be clear, the last debate, he ended Joe Biden's career.
Are you saying that Donald Trump's performance in the last debate was good?
I'm saying it was good enough to end Joe Biden's career, yes.
Joe Biden's brain ended Joe
Don't talk
Biden's
over each
career,
other.
you guys.
Let Harry answer first.
Piers, I love him. No, Donald Trump.
You told me Joe Biden was going to win, so we've had that conversation.
Well, I mean, there was a different political environment.
You ain't going to win now, Harry.
Things evolve over time. Hey, things evolve over time. Last time he ran against Donald Trump, he beat him by 7 million votes. So we're still 1-0 against Donald Trump.
It's a great line from Harry Sisson. He's very quick on his feet. This kid, he's so good at what he does. Very impressed with him. Again, the heckling, you can see that the two Trump supporters, again, I don't know the Trump sidekick's name, but he was very triggered by that. I will say Donald Trump did have a disastrous performance in the debate against President Biden. It's just that the media was much more focused on President Biden's own disastrous performance, and it was disastrous in different ways. So I don't know if I buy the claim that it was Donald Trump who ended President Biden's political career. To the extent that I accept the premise that President Biden's political career was ended, I would say Joe Biden did it to himself, not Donald Trump. But again, that just goes to show that Piers Morgan is just particularly inclined to grade Trump on a curve. But Harry Sisson had the better final word in that respect that even, again, Piers Morgan seemed to tip the hat to, which is, hey, the one election that the two had, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, Joe Biden kicked Donald Trump's ass, so it's 1-0 in favor of Biden. Can't really argue with that record. Another clip here.
Against fracking, there's a problem with Kamala Harris. People don't believe her and they don't trust her. And Donald Trump has to do a better job of talking about these flip-flops. She's in favor of things that are extreme. For example, hold on, let me finish.
Donald Trump the other day said he was going to vote against the Florida ballot initiative, and then the next day said the opposite thing.
I'm talking. I'm going to quote Kamala Harris. You love her. You should respect that. I'm talking. Last night,
just interrupting
ABC News didn't.
So again, this goes to show how MAGA snowflakes like that loser operate. So they love to heckle with impunity. It's the asymmetry. It's kind of like when it comes to civility. So MAGA Republicans like Ted Cruz's sidekick here, and I call him a Ted Cruz sidekick because I believe he's either a co-host or a producer on Ted Cruz's podcast, The Verdict with Ted Cruz. You know, on my show, The Verdict with Ted Cruz, like that, he's a full-time podcaster, part-time U.S. senator, which is why Colin Allred will hopefully defeat him utterly in the upcoming senatorial elections, and Ted Cruz can just go off and make more money as a full-time podcaster, and we'll be rid of him in the United States Senate. So come on, Ted, I'm pulling for you. Just go ahead, lose the election, become a full-time podcaster. You'll make so much more money. Think of how often you could own the libs if you didn't have to worry about your full-time Senate schedule. Anyway, I digress. So this guy will heckle and interrupt the liberals, the progressives, the Team Blue. He feels as if he has every right to do that. However, if you interrupt him, he gets very triggered, very emotional. I'm talking. Don't talk to. I'm talking. And this is why, folks, as a general proposition, I have such contempt for MAGA influencers, because what happens is there's a double standard. I want to be able to treat you however the hell I want, but you can't treat me the way you want to treat me. You have to, I can be as uncivil as possible, but you have to treat me with the ultimate civility. It's just weak, pathetic baby shit. And people should roast these losers so much more on that topic and say, hey, listen, if you don't want to be interrupted, do not interrupt in turn. If you interrupt in turn, then I reserve the right to interrupt you. And if you don't like it, again, it is ultimately your fault, as it is this guy's. More of these clips.
Right, doesn't it?
Man, I wish. I super wish. I mean, I'm a big Bernie girl. I'm a big old scary lefty. You know what I mean? Everyone would probably think I'm a crazy Marxist just because I want everyone to have health care. I wish. And sadly, I think you might be right, Piers. You know, Kamala Harris was asked about health care, and unlike Donald Trump, who quite literally has no plan, in fact said he had the concepts of a plan, but excused himself by saying he wasn't president, therefore he didn't have a plan. Yeah, but my guy, you're running for president. But Kamala Harris also once said that she believed that we should expand Medicare and that we should lower the age to 55 and in effect be on our way to a public option, which again would help all Americans out, not just poor Americans, not just older Americans.
Don't interrupt,
listen,
buddy.
Ted
Don't
Cruz
interrupt,
is best
buddy.
boy. Look, I know Ted lets you interrupt and whatever, but now you're on Piers' show. Let us talk, okay?
Dude, I love this one-liner. Like, that hurts me. If you're going to talk about a record, then be honest with the people watching. Kamala Harris said she wanted to get rid of private insurance.
I'm trying.
That is what she said.
To agree with
Pure chaos, because again, this guy is such a snowflake loser who should be made fun of at every available opportunity. Again, he wants to be able to interrupt people with impunity, but can't handle a fraction of it in turn, which is what Harry Sisson and Francesca Fiorentini are calling out. Another clip.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Two things. The gentleman in the blue suit was crying about being interrupted while simultaneously interrupting people. He also wanted to go after Kamala Harris for being a flip-flopper. Donald Trump, oh, look, he's doing it again. He's doing it again right now. Donald Trump the other day said he was voting for the... Can you be quiet? Can you be quiet for 5 seconds? Donald Trump the other day said that he was voting against the Florida ballot abortion initiative. Then the next day he flipped his position. You want to talk about flip-flopper? Let's talk about that. Now, Brandon...
So this is a big one too. So again, what usually happens on these shows is that Piers again has a pro-Trump predicate and pro-Trump premise to most questions. And so this idea that the vice president is a flip-flopper because her views on particular policies have changed in 5 years. If you want to ask the vice president about that, if you want to interrogate the origin of these policy changes, that's perfectly fair. But it's not uncommon for politicians to change their views over a span of 5 years, particularly when 4 of those years, I should say 3.5 to 4 of those years, were spent in a different job. She was a United States Senator from California running for president of the United States. So she was a legislator running to be president when she gave these very progressive views, most of which I really, really like. But she has since been governing in the executive branch alongside President Biden for 3.5 to 4 years, dealing with the reality of divided government, a hostile Supreme Court, and just really a hostile MAGA Republican Party. So her position is like, listen, if I could snap my fingers and we're all on green energy, that'd be great. But I can't do that. I'm not God. I'm vice president running to be president. And the reality is that domestic oil production and domestic fracking have skyrocketed under the Biden-Harris administration, higher than it ever was under the Trump administration. And yes, simultaneously, we're able to invest in renewable green energy because that's the future as well. So we have to do both, and I would continue to do so. That's a really substantive answer for a flip-flop. Harry Sisson's point is Donald Trump flip-flopped on a very important political and electoral issue, which is abortion. And he did it within the span of 24 hours multiple times. And we saw it on camera. Nobody's asking Trump about that, especially when he couldn't give a fraction of a substantive answer for it other than, I don't want to scare away the evangelicals, so I'm just going to say whatever I want in front of like whomever it takes just to get out of this conversation and move on to the next thing. So good on Harry Sisson for pointing that out. Continue.
Brandon on the end says the Biden administration hasn't done anything. I'm sorry, Brandon. Do you think that 1.2 million people, veterans, having access to more healthcare than they did before is not doing something? Do you not think the largest investment in infrastructure since Eisenhower is not doing something? Do you think that capping insulin at $35 a month is not doing something? Do you think capping out-of-pocket expenses for seniors at $2,000 a year, starting in 25, not doing anything? I'm sorry. Are all of these things that help people not doing anything? Now, your question. Now, look at these. Look at these triggered guys over here. They're the real Piers. We're looking at the real snowflakes over here.
You just talked about.
So he's right. They are the real snowflakes. The fact of the matter is, yes, and this is where Harry Sisson makes another phenomenal point, which is that the Biden administration's record is objectively superior to the Trump administration's record. So, we did expand veterans health care under the Biden administration. The PACT Act, which, by the way, started as a bipartisan initiative, and then Republicans started to oppose it at the last second because they were upset about a deal that Democrats made with Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, which basically politically outmaneuvered the Republicans. And so out of retaliation and to avoid giving Democrats another political victory, they started to sabotage the PACT Act, which would expand veterans health care. And it took pressure from Democrats and, Hollywood celebrities, particularly Jon Stewart, to get them to fold. So Democrats should get all the credit, Republicans should get all the blame, and it happened under the Biden administration. It got signed into law. The CHIPS and Science Act, which is presiding over a manufacturing boom in this country, billions and billions and billions of dollars of domestic semiconductor and, high technology investiture in the United States. That's happening under the Biden administration. 16 million jobs created. Even if you control for the pandemic, President Biden's created more jobs per month than Donald Trump ever did, even prior to the pandemic. So we're better on that score. Donald Trump added much more to the debt. He was fiscally profligate and irresponsible compared to the Biden administration. You have the bipartisan infrastructure law, which is revitalizing infrastructure in this country, which is something that Trump promised to do for 4 years. Biden got it done in less than one, thus again demonstrating Biden's objectively greater competence, because this is another apples-to-apples comparison. $35 insulin cap. Trump promised he'd get it done. He failed. Biden got it done. Trump said that he would allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices. He failed. President Biden got it done, and so on and so forth. Not only did Biden just get more of his general agenda accomplished, he actually got more of Trump's agenda accomplished than Trump himself did, because Trump is that stupid. So good on Harry Sisson for pointing that out. Now, they don't have an answer to that. Say, well, if that's true, why isn't Joe Biden running? Well, President Biden isn't running because he was persuaded that he wouldn't win, or that he was less likely to win, or that if he did win, he would have a suppressive impact on the down ballot races. You're talking about an electoral reality versus a political reality. You could flip that. If Donald Trump was so successful, why didn't he win the 2020 election? Now, they would say it was stolen. Then you would demand proof, and they wouldn't be able to provide proof, and then you'd make fun of them, and then they would cry. But the fact of the matter is, being a successful president doesn't guarantee that you would win re-election. So the fact that Joe Biden isn't running for president is because of an electoral reality that he was persuaded of, not a reflection of the facts about his record. And so they have no answer for that. But I loved that panel on Piers Morgan. You should check out the full thing in its entirety. It got really chaotic, really spicy, as you can see, because these MAGA snowflakes are hypocritical, they're sensitive, and they can't handle facts. And that's why, again, we should make fun of them. And in the meantime, you let me know what you think in the comments.